If you have these moments when you stop eating and cannot stop, this video is for you. Today I want to clear up the difference between overeating, emotional eating, and binge eating, because they are very similar from the outside, but they are not the same problem. And if you treat them like the same problem, you are gonna get the same results, which are not the results we want. My name is Mary. I am a doctor, and I also know what it feels like when you have your brain feel loud around food. By the end of this video, you will know exactly in which bucket you're in and what is next step to recovery. Quick note before we start, even though I have a medical degree, this is not the video for diagnosis. If you think you might have an eating disorder, I would highly recommend having a visit with a professional. What I can do is to help you recognize the patterns, to choose the right tools without the shame, and give you the clarity, because that was one of the torturous things when I was going through the recovery, because I didn't know what was wrong in the beginning. So let's start with overeating. Overeating is when you eat past comfortable fullness. I mean physical fullness. If you think about like holidays, Christmas, think holidays, like Christmas, Thanksgiving is my all-time favorite example. Big family celebration, there's a food you don't usually have, or the amount you usually have. And what happens is that you're getting distracted, you're having beautiful conversation with people, or you're tasting a little bit of everything, and suddenly you feel like you're so full you cannot even stand from the chair. You know the time when you have to switch off the belt on your pants? Yeah, that's what I mean. And there is an overeating which happens for normal reasons, because the food tasted so delicious that you couldn't stop. Not all the time, but one time you visited a new country, and you know when you go back to home, you will not have access to this delicious food. You are very hungry because you have been starving all day, and you underate earlier. That's why when you start eating, you didn't notice when you got full, so you ended up overeating. And you were in the social situation, even though you were not hungry, you were sitting around the table, everybody was eating, and it was socially acceptable to eat as well. Those are reasons why people overeat. Overeating does not have the purpose. What I mean by that is, in comparison to emotional eating and binge eating, overeating is not done to get specific result. It happens on accident. It happens when you are distracted around food, when you lose focus or control, whatever you need to name it. I wouldn't say control though. The biggest marker for overeating is that overeating happens accidentally. There's no deep purpose to it. There's no need to change it. You don't find the compromises. You are not feeling guilty or shameful. You don't feel like you're a terrible person. You just overate and you moved on. You never thought about it after the physical discomfort went. To fix overeating, to stop overeating, it's not the mindset work. It's creating basic structure. You don't arrive starving. You slow down a little bit, you're being more present when you eat food, and all of those things will help you avoid overeating. Emotional eating is eating with purpose. You are eating to change how you feel. That purpose can look two different ways. First is you're getting rid of the emotion, and second is you are searching for emotion. Example for first one will be, I am stressed. I want to get rid of stress. That's why I will have food, regulate my emotions, feel great. The second thing will be, I am searching for specific emotion I cannot get right now. It can be comfort, it can be connection, it can be feeling loved. Those three are very, very common. And what happens is that you are eating food which is associated with specific memories that make you feel comforted, make you feel loved, make you feel connected. What happens in both scenarios is that you are fulfilling your need for emotion. With emotional eating, you're not usually physically hungry. Or you might be physically hungry, but hunger is not the main driver. For me, emotional eating used to look like this. Like, I knew I was not hungry because I ate like an hour ago, but I would have this feeling which would annoy me to the point that I couldn't stay in one place. I was searching around myself and I didn't know what to do with myself. And my brain would automatically lock in onto the food. And the moment I ate, I felt calm, I felt relaxed, I felt better. I was basically emotionally regulated and my nervous system was finally relaxed. And it was perfect. Important thing is the emotional eating doesn't have to be a huge amount of food. Sometimes it's small but repetitive eating. It can still create the guilt if you are very aware that you are not physically hungry. But the key marker with emotional eating is not the food. It is the function the food is having, which is emotional regulation. So what to do to help the condition is to ask yourself what I'm feeling right now, what is the feeling I'm trying to get rid of, and am I physically hungry or not? If you're not physically hungry, food won't fix the actual need long term. You would need to learn how to fulfill those emotions, how to regulate those emotions without the food. One tool that helps is a short pause because you are creating the interruption into the habit loop. Extremely important thing there is the emotional eating and binge eating are very, very close together, right? Because in the beginning, I thought I was struggling with emotional eating. And then, because of the tools I used, my emotional eating unfortunately progressed and it developed into the full-on binge eating disorder. Binge eating is different because the defined feature of it is losing control. It's that feeling of rationally, I know I'm not hungry. I know I should stop. I know I should stop, but it's like my body has its own mind. It feels so urgent. It feels so severe that even though I know everything that I'm not supposed to do, I cannot make it into the action. And binge eating often has these few patterns, which is urgency, that it has to happen right now. Like you are trying to push through, but you cannot think of anything else until the food comes. Autopilot, when you start eating and when you wake up in the midway, like you are eating so unconsciously that you only realize you had full-on meal when you're done. Secrecy is the next one. It often happens when no one is watching. People often binge in the evening because that's the moment when they can get time for themselves. They can be hidden from eyes of others. And afterwards, the huge shame comes. It's not just that, oh, I'm full, I'm regretting it, I shouldn't have done it. It's the fact that you're feeling so ashamed and so guilty that you think that you're the problem, that you're the issue, you're worthless, and the self-hatred starts. And not everyone is experiencing every single sign every single time, right? But the losing control around food is something that is common for every single person who is struggling with binge eating. Something I have to absolutely tell you is the binge episode is not the same thing as binge eating disorder. Disorder diagnosis often depends on the frequency, duration, specific criteria. You have to fulfill DSM-5 criteria for that. So please don't self-diagnose from one bad night or evening or week you had. But I also don't want to minimize the effect repetitive pattern will have. So if you're seeing any of the traits within yourself while you're watching this video, I would recommend checking it with a healthcare professional. What helps with the binge eating is taking away the restriction. I know it sounds so scary, it sounds so contradictory, but that's exactly what it is. It's learning how to interrupt autopilot in the moment and reduce the triggers that set it up. Restriction, number one trigger. Stress, second most common trigger. Loneliness, boredom, the all or nothing thinking, when you think that because I already messed up today, let me have this full on lose of control and then tomorrow I will restrict more. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. I know you will have a bunch of proofs yourself too. One more thing I really wanted to mention about binge eating is that generally eating disorders are into disorder category because they are changing your quality of life. If you think about it, every disorder is changing your quality of life. If you're struggling with your emotional eating, yes, you are having some patterns which you might not like or you would like to change, but in comparison to binge eating disorder, it doesn't change your quality of life. With binge eating, you are in the mental fight all the time, so you stop going out with your friends because you don't want to eat in front of them. You are eating alone, so you're isolating yourself because you don't want people to see how you are losing control around food. Those are just two examples from the huge list of habits that are associated with binge eating, and they are changing your social life, your relationships, because a lot of people are afraid to get into the real relationship. I really wanted to share this with you because that was one of the biggest things that changed my mind about those eating. What is the connection though? Why people are mixing up overeating, emotional eating, and binge eating? Because of the food noise. They have connection, which is the food noise. For the definition, food noise is when your brain is loud around food, you're becoming planner, you're calculating, you're craving, you're thinking about food all the time, negotiating around food all the time. And food noise can show up in any of those three situations, but it gets the most intense when you feel out of control and when you're stuck in all in nothing cycle, which was us. So it's happening when you are struggling with binge eating the most. If you want help reducing these binge episodes or food noise, you can join my free Skool community and book a 15-minute free call with me where I will help you find what are the most common patterns that trigger those episodes and give you a tool that will help you to avoid them and start or help you with the recovery process. That was all I had for you today. I hope it was informative and interesting to watch, and I will be seeing you in the next one. Bye!